Good
I'd
morning.
like to come on over to your side.
That's nice. Here, let's move this back. Look at our adjusting even as we turn this on. Okay, just sit. You're fine. Just be natural. You're fine. I'm moving the camera.
Good then.
Morning.
Good morning. This is now Bridge to a Better World. That's the name of this.
How is it that you always get out of the frame? There we go.
I'm in the frame, and that's the name of our program. I'm just going to say it again. This is now Bridge to a Better World, and we're so glad that you joined us. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot happening, and there's hope because of some of the things that are happening. And I would say that some of the things that are happening have been sort of building up in a good way for a while. And before we get to the good stuff, maybe I'll just mention that, oh my God, there's a fire. There's fires all over Oregon and Washington and California and Canada.
And we're going to talk about that later.
You want to talk about it later?
That's what we talked about, talking about it.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Well, we were going to start out this morning by talking about this really weird, unusual sort of situation that I have. I believe it's true for many of us. I'm actually feeling hopeful. I'm actually feeling almost enthusiastic. Now I'll take out the almost. I'm actually feeling enthusiastic.
Let's talk about hope, yeah.
About our national campaigns, our national candidates for presidency. As we, for viewers of this stream, as you may remember, I have not really ever been a big fan of the Democratic Party. I am, kind of, I'm going to just say it, I'm an anarchist. And electoral politics has always been, I figure, something that we do as a minimum, but that we work together to create the change that we need to take care of each other and all that kind of good stuff. And mostly, I've viewed my voting record as just trying to keep the worst things from happening. Now, we have a candidate in the vice presidency who seems to be almost everything I've ever wanted in a candidate. I am absolutely enthusiastic about Tim Walz. In his record of governorship, he's been outstanding as a person who is compassionate and who consistently does the right thing, all with a sort of Minnesota nice.
He's got good dad energy.
He's got really good dad energy. And I think that this is a wonderful place to be. There was a few days last week where I was a little confused. I was like, what is this feeling I'm having? I called my best friend. I'm like, I want to talk to you for a minute about, have you heard about Tim Walz? Hey, as a Midwesterner, do you know this guy? And I found myself enthusiastically talking about a man who's spent some part of his political career actually upholding rights for the LGBT community, who
stuck his neck out even when he was a coach.
And who stuck his neck out also in terms of racial justice protests 4 years ago. Who did the right thing during the beginnings of the COVID pandemics, who's just consistently been on the right side of policy, period. Using public funds to fix public roads, wacky, but there he is, helping the infrastructure of Minnesota, where he has, in fact, spoken out vigorously in terms of protecting trans youth. And as Teresa was mentioning, here he is initially in his career as a high school teacher and football coach, who saw gay and lesbian kids being bullied and actually stuck up for them and was the school sponsor, the staff sponsor of a gay straight alliance in the 90s as a football coach, because he said he figured he was pretty unassailable being a football coach and a married straight man, he figured that he could go ahead and stick his neck out for the benefit of those who were being bullied. And that, the more I've dug into his record this week, the more I find that that is just sort of who he is. He stands up for the people who are being bullied. He does this as a member of the Straight White Man Club because he knows he has privilege and he knows how to use it effectively to make the world a better place for those of us who were not born with the privilege of being a straight white man in this society.
And when I think back to my high school days when I was just a little, I mean, I can't even say the word that I heard all the time. Uh, the coaches were the worst. I mean, they were the enemy. Absolutely. And I would never expect a coach to stand up for me.
Right.
Well,
yeah, I mean that would also be the case when I was in a regular straight school. I was absolutely bullied by the coaches for being a little nerd, a little nonconformist, and all of this other stuff. And I'm here for it. I am here for this change. I am downright enthusiastic. And yeah, the idea that Kamala Harris is set to be the next president of the United States, you know, her record, frankly, I started noticing her during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings when she was lightning sharp. Lightning sharp, that's not actually,
I kind of like
I'm,
it.
I'm metaphoring in a mixed way
Lightning
here.
bolts of razors, I tell you.
She was great. That's what I'm trying to say. She was absolutely great. And it's, she was, she was so clear in standing against Brett Kavanaugh's oozing misogyny that it totally impressed me. Then I checked out her record.
I just like beer, okay?
And she was okay. She was doing
Supreme Court now.
She was doing okay, as a senator. I looked into her record as a before that when she was prosecutor, in we call it California, and mixed bag, right? She was better than some, not as great as others. She's a prosecutor. That's prosecutors is they prosecute. It's what they do. And so, but she did some really good things. She did some not so great things. That was her beginning political career. As a senator, I think she did much better. And as a candidate for president, what I'm hearing is everything I really do like. And we do need this very smart, very sharp, very astute, quick witted uh, presidential package that we are getting right now with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We need that to sort of break through the numbing that has happened with the political uh, morass in this country. For too long, we've just been thinking about how can we possibly keep the boot off our necks? How can we just maybe inch by a little bit more without a complete outbreak of fucking fascism? That has been about as much as I've dared to hope. Now I see, in fact, we have a team of candidates that are moving, that are putting sort of compassion and a human face forward, that are obviously having a good time together, that exude joy and hope. And I am absolutely here for it.
I wish I lived in the United States in which candidates were selected through sincere and rational planning. They would be transparent. And isn't that a nice dream? I don't live in the United States. And so it's very important when you see a campaign that has energy and momentum and excitement. And, excitement gets votes. And I don't live in that rational world. I do live where people react to the excitement. And there's a lot of excitement on the Kamala side. And this is really, really a good thing considering considering the alternative. Considering the alternative.
Well, and
So
I,
this is,
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Considering the alternative.
so I was just sort of winding up what you were saying because I
Oh,
wanted to say that there's a lot of things going on in the world too.
there are a lot of things going on in the world. I'm just going to end it by saying this. Um, have I absolutely loved everything that the two of them have ever done? No. And I want to put it out there that we progressives, radicals, leftists, the extreme left, the vermin of this country, that we have a history of having, um, we'll support people and then they'll do something that maybe we don't like so much. And then we cast them down from the pedestal and, talk about how we're disenfranchised and we can never trust again. And this is not really a healthy political attitude. We know that these are, in fact, real people and that real people do things sometimes that we disagree with. I love Leisha Miller. If people are familiar with her analysis, she is another YouTuber, Leisha Miller. Look her up. She does amazing work covering the radical right. And she mentioned she's from Minnesota, and she did a little episode on Tim Walz the other day. And she just at the end of it mentioned that it's not practical. It's not reasonable to expect to enthusiastically support each and every position a politician has ever put forward. She points out that we often don't agree with our own loved ones, with our friends and family. We have disagreements and different ways of looking at things within households, within communities, within cities. And how much more complicated and challenging does that get when we're talking about a national situation? And so, it seems to me that we have a habit of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. Thank you, John, for throwing that phrase in for this morning. That is pretty much it. We have to really take a big picture into consideration. As much as it pains me to say, I really don't think that it's possible, nor actually even a positive thing, if a politician and I were in absolute lockstep, absolute 100% agreement. Like that would be a little bit weird, frankly, because that would mean they're not listening to folks that disagree with me. And we have to allow this complexity. We have to allow this pluralism, right? Moving forward, always with compassion, always with environmental justice, always with racial justice, always upholding communities that are under attack, always safeguarding, a pluralistic future. But we should not expect to absolutely agree with everything candidates do or say.
That said, I'm really glad she did not pick genocide Josh Shapiro.
Sure. Oh yeah. No. I mean, I'm just. I could not be happier with this combination. Honestly, just I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I do think of Walz. I mean, in terms of, I guess I should say Walz, more efforts on the L, more emphasis on the L. Tim Walz, I'll get used to it. He is Bernie Sanders-ish in what he does. I don't think he speaks as well for a socialist point of view, and maybe he doesn't quite have a socialist point of view. Maybe that's the reason, as Bernie Sanders. But I'll take him. I'll take him big time. And this is quite the relief, and it means that the Kamala Manamanan is continuing forward. Kamala.
Yeah. Can I talk a little bit about socialism?
Please.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if Tim Walz considers himself a socialist. I don't know if if he's read the manifesto. I don't know any of these things. But
he just slips into it by compassion.
Well, yeah, exactly. What I have heard him say is he was raised on a Nebraska farm. He's worked on family farms for much of his formative years, and what he understands is when a neighbor needs some help, everyone comes around and helps their neighbor. and that it works on the farm level, it works in the rural level, it works on the state level, and it can work on the national level. It's neighbors helping neighbors. And it's that kind of down home Midwestern mutual aid that is
It's the way we should be.
socialism, right? I mean, that is if we weren't afraid of the word socialism, that is neighbors taking care of neighbors. It's us putting our resources together to make sure that we have a fire department and that kids get fed at school
for the social good.
for the social good.
Okay, socialism.
Yeah, exactly.
Shall we go to climate and wars and things?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why I think it's so freaking great that we are feeling this burst of joy, of enthusiasm, of excitement, and actually feeling like we can be pro a candidate instead of just against the other candidate is because we got a hell of a lot of work to do. As Teresa was mentioning right at the beginning of this, we have fires all around us. We and depending where you're living, perhaps it's not all around you, perhaps it's with you. The city of Cherry Grove was evacuated last night from the fire that is around Hague Lake. We have fires pretty much in every direction from the city, mostly to the east. And the entire Northwest and Northern California seem to be caught in a bit of conflagration right now, right? And one of the things that I'm noticing is that we just sort of are expecting it. Every year, I had a friend ask me, "Hey, it's been we're in the last week of or the end of the first week of August. Maybe it's been a little bit better this year. I mean, we didn't have any air quality alerts and wildfire alerts in July,
I know what you're
so
talking about. Every year is dread. Will it happen? Will the heat dome happen? Will the fires happen? We don't know, so we wait and see. And so far this year, we've had the heat, and we haven't had as much dryness as we have, but before. But it's enough heat to drive fires, and so we do have fires. And that Hag Lake fire is it's called something else. I forget the name of it. Is 200 acres last I checked. But fortunately, there is no wind blowing it, so it could be.
that's you stepping on. You need to.
No, that's not me. That's a pet.
No, that's you. Look, that's your foot.
Okay.
Whoopsies.
It's my pet foot. And the CenturyLink has been going out, so we'll see if we get through this. But we have gotten used to it, haven't we? I mean, we've gotten used to dreading summer, and that's a drag. But what else can we do? We have to be aware of these fires going on, and yeah, they do burn into urban areas from time to time. Horrifically in Colorado, and once in California, that tunnel fire. It's been some years, but that was an urban fire. So that's going on, and internationally, everyone's.
I want to point out Shannon commenting that Friends in Trout Lake had to leave because they couldn't get notification after level 2, which means some people don't get told to evacuate because of glitches. And I was noticing just about the same time the evacuation orders went out for Cherry Grove. Within about an hour after that, our internet was out for the rest of the night, and it was on and off sporadically this morning. So as Teresa was saying, we weren't sure how long we'll be able to actually stream this morning, since we have lost internet service a few times, because apparently CenturyLink has experienced some major outages over the last 12 hours.
Yeah, Down Detector showed, according to their graph, it was way out at about 4:30.
So if you're somebody who relies on the internet for your news, if that's how you bring in all of your media, then in times of natural emergency, natural disaster, wildfires, say, if you're having an outage of that service, that can be an extremely dangerous situation. I want to remind people to keep radios on hand.
I had a couple of CDs, but they seem to have sprouted legs. darn it. Anyway, internationally, the everyone's been holding their breath because Iran has raised the red flag of revenge, which is their official way of saying that they're going to do something big. And the last time was when they sent the drone swarm towards Tel Aviv and towards the airport there, in a kind of gonna get you maneuver. All of their slow drones were shot down, and they only sent a few of their hypersonic missiles. So it turned out that hardly anyone was hurt, which is grand. That's wonderful. This time, apparently, they're saying that it's going to be a lot bigger. Comments were at the time that yes, this if it had been a larger attack, then the strategy would have worked. And it was apparently their way of saying boo in a really big way. And there has been one sounding message. Try it again. Sounding missile, a message missile, which struck in Israeli territory. So, in other words, they were testing the system. So that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it could not happen for some reason. I'd be okay with that. In Ukraine, the whole situation has changed. Just over the last 48 hours, Ukraine launched an invasion along part of their front, northern part of their front, which the Russians have not put a lot of fortification in. The reason being that they have concentrated on attacking the south closer to Crimea, where they can reinforce their troops. And they've been steadily gaining ground on a war of attrition, which they are historically very well. Move that over there. They're very well equipped for, and it's horrible the way they're doing it. It's very cruel. They're killing their own men in those meat wall attacks, and it is grinding down the Ukrainian defense. The Ukrainian defense, in the meanwhile, has developed a very efficient military response. Their soldiers are quite efficient, and some of them just nearly legendary in their fighting abilities. And so what they decided to do was just turn the thing on its head and literally attack and hold territory in Russia. So they're moving into Kursk in a huge way. They have taken a town in Kursk. Last I checked, they're well more than 30 kilometers in. Very significantly, they found an airport that was holding the infamous glide bombs. Glide bombs have been a huge problem for the Ukrainians because it's a very effective way for the Russians to convert some of their old munitions into new effective munitions. And what they do is they get a Sukhoi plane or one of their any of their jet fighters will do, and they launch the missiles onto a path towards the Ukrainian positions, and then the glide bombs have electronics on them that bring their couple 2,000-3,000 pounds of explosives directly onto the heads of exactly where they want it to go. Very effective, driving the Ukrainians back, depressing them. Well, they just blew up a slew of them. They blew up the whole airport because they hit the supply of glide bombs, and the airport is just gone. So that'll stop that in that region for a moment. And the disarray on behalf of the Russians is something to behold. In that section, I had something pulled up here so that I could read just a brief part of it. But it's okay, so I don't have it. But anyway, they're saying that the Russian bloggers are angry at their military their military brass because there's been a turkey shoot situation. If you know what that means, it's just a column, a very long column sent to reinforce the defending Russians along a road. It would be a north-south road. Has just been blasted to smithereens. Apparently, they didn't provide air cover for it, and the Ukrainians did. So this means that they'll be able to hold that territory even better. And the Ukrainians apparently have an effective air defense, or at least a good answer, because otherwise they would have been obliterated going that far and that openly. They have taken a town center, and they have overtaken the webcams that watch the roads in the area so that they can see the Russians coming in for their reinforcements. And long story short, it's just a bad situation for the Russians and a tremendous Plus, for the Ukrainians, not just for morale, but if they hold this, then they will have something to trade in negotiations. And I guess that's what we're all hoping for, is that this will go to negotiations and people can just stop dying horribly in Ukraine. Hopeful news, much like the hopeful anti-Trump news in the U.S. The aggressors and the fascists are being pushed back, and I'm pretty excited about it.
It would be a fine day to listen to All You Fascists Are Bound to Lose, the old Woody Guthrie classic, as done by Billy Bragg. All You Fascists Are Bound to Lose. Look for it wherever you find tunes.
It just gets right to the point and repeats it. All you fascists are bound to lose.
It's a kicking little tune, and I think it deserves to be played loudly and on repeat for the next, I don't know, few years.
Yeah,
Years.
down with that.
Anything else from you? Oh, so the whole idea here is, you know, excuse me. We have been so afraid, really. We have been in such a hopeless place that I am absolutely thrilled to be moving into a place where we can actually work together to enthusiastically support those who we can then continue to engage with to try to make the world a better place. That's kind of what it's about. That we are, I'm certainly not naive enough to think, oh, if we just get the Democratic ticket elected during this election, we can just sort of go back to whatever it was we were doing and not pay any more attention for the next 4 years, because that's not how it works, right? If we, in fact, do this thing and get this most progressive ticket I've seen in my life actually elected as our president and vice president, then we have to actually continue the good struggle of moving that goalpost back from the right that it has been shoved into to maybe even reclaiming the center and possibly even moving it into a progressive path where, in fact, we can fight child poverty, we can fight food insecurity for all, we can look at affordable housing, we can say maybe get some money from the Pentagon because we don't need to, say send bombers to commit genocide around the world. We can dial back U.S. imperialism. We can use those resources to uplift people in this country and to make sure everyone's needs are being met, that we have universal health care, affordable housing, a good energy program that will mitigate some of the harms that have been done that are causing things like the wildfires and the hurricanes that are, coming up the East Coast and New York City is preparing for, and that sort of thing. We can, in fact, gain a little bit of space to move forward.
A little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of hope has a tremendous effect. For example, I have been, one of those warning about the gigantic number of dirty tricks that the Republicans intend not just to throw the next election, but to destroy any faith in democracy coming up in November. They're going to do it. There's various ways in which they're going to do it. And these ways, which would have had a shock value, that was something they were counting on as the shock doctrine, are being exposed one by one and talked about everywhere. Even, some of them are just so ridiculous, like a web form that you can fill out in Texas that has a submit button that isn't really a submit button. I mean, they'll just do anything to keep you from voting in Texas, and people are catching on to that. So if everyone is catching on to that and countermeasures are in place vigorously over the next 2 months, there's a good chance that the GOP could fail in their effort to turn this into some sort of stinking Gilead.
Right on. And here's to that failure.
Yeah.
Chink. I wish we had a little glass that we could toast.
Oh, well, that can be arranged.
Well, I don't have one. So what can you do?
Should I get the whiskey?
So, all that said, yeah, we can, if once we have this victory in the national office, we can continue the hard work of organizing, the joyous work of organizing, reaching out neighbor to neighbor, and working on climate change and all of those other social justice, economic justice issues that we need to get to. So, moving forward,
Move forward.
the
Moving up.
tarot for the day kind of reflects this, right? We have the sun,
That's
the
like
sun, that's the expansive kitty belly of the sun.
that's a helpful look. That's a hopeful looking card.
Isn't it? Hard to get more hopeful than the sun. We have the Three of Swords, it's inverted, and we have the Hierophant. So, what does this all mean? It means that, yes, we are in a period of celebration, relaxation, victory. It is a card of expansion, a card of possibilities, a card of playfulness. It's kind of joyous. It is the um, how do we say, it's the card that sort of symbolizes how you feel at the high point of summer when you're in a beautiful place with all the people you love sharing good food.
Sort of a kitty belly rubbing kind of card.
It's a kitty belly rubbing kind of card.
All right.
It is about the expansive nature of joy. That's what it's about. The Three of Swords often talks about betrayal, heart mind conflict, disappointment, and loss. Um, and yet, this is the one card that was inversed. And when it's inversed, it talks about the reconciliation of the heart and the mind. It also talks about forgiveness forgiveness as a way of healing past harm and past hurt. It is about taking the claws out of your own heart because once we've been hurt, sometimes we get very jaded and defensive. And so we pull back and we end up hurting ourselves or continuing that hurt. So this is about reversing that. It's about taking the claws out of our own hearts. It's about letting go and reconciling that the heart and the mind can work together as one. We can continue to apply analysis, but we can do it with compassion and we can forgive old hurts.
What that reminds me of is they're trying to swift boat Tim Dad Walls, and it's just bouncing off him. It's like it's not working at all.
Cool. I'm just going to keep on with the tarot reading.
Yeah.
Cool. And so then we have the Hierophant. And the Hierophant's where we end up. The Hierophant talks about following rules. It's about tradition. It's about upholding the old ways. And it's also about knowing when the old ways are not sustainable and shifting them. When structure becomes strangling, there is a time to build new structure. So it's an upholding of tradition, but it's also a call to recognize when traditions need to be changed. And so altogether, Yahoo! As I like to say, Yahoo Mountain Dew. Or should it be Diet Mountain Dew? Anyway, it is, I have to say, an incredibly hopeful spread that starts in joy, works into forgiveness, and ends up with the upholding of traditions and looking to grow new traditions to replace ones that have hurt us in the past. So with that, onwards, my friends, onwards. We have a whole lot of disinformation to wade through. We know that fascism doesn't concede easily. And so as we joyously move forward together, upholding this most progressive ticket in my life from the mainstream Democratic Party, the establishment Dems, I can't imagine that we're here. We move forward together and we keep doing the hard work of organizing all through it. Be especially watchful for the dirty tricks and misinformation, disinformation campaigns. As John points out, the anti-democratic AI bots are have been loosed by Scrooge McEmeralds, and we just have to expect that kind of bullshit. So be smart, be together, uphold each other, support each other, and let's move forward into the next week of glorious kitty rubs
All right, then.
and hard work.
Shall we sign off then?
Let's do that.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the comments. I've really enjoyed doing this. I mean, we just passed an anniversary, and I want to say that I started doing this way back in a different form in '81 on KTEZ, and it's the best decision of my life to try to help the community by finding things out and by explaining things as best I could, and by being a counter propaganda and force, a counter propaganda agent. And y'all that have tuned us in, even when we first started, you're part of that. And I'm just so glad to be with you and to be doing this and to be with Ani.
Yay! Yeah, yeah. We got hitched. Well, we got hand fasted. We got hand fasted in a park with a lot of spirals made out of crepe paper, crepey paper. And a couple of good folks officiating. So and that was 29 years ago. Exactly half my life I have been with her. Anyways, that all said, we're so glad you're here too. Please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell so you know when we are coming to you live, and hit the thumbs up button. I'm excited that our audience is growing, our subscribers are growing, and please do help us spread the word. We love you whole bunches.
Up to you, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all the ships at sea.
Woohoo!